Hi and welcome to Nicola Hageman Accountancy and the webinar that we recorded on the 27th of March 2020, looking at COVID-19 and the support that the government have offered for small businesses and sole traders. I hope you find the webinar useful. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me on my social media channels.
So obviously this time it's fairly stressful for a number of businesses. A lot of big people are seeing a downturn in their work and some are unable to work completely. So the government have stepped in and they are offering additional support for businesses and for sole traders. So today I'm just going to go through sort of the support that is being that is on offer. Let me just share my screen. Okay, let me know in the chat if you can't see this. So, I'm going to start off with the self-employed because I think that's probably the most sort of pressing one, because that's what's come up over the last sort of 24 hours. So self-employed workers will be able to claim a grant of 80% of their self-employed earnings up to £2,500 per month for 3 months. So this grant is a taxable income, so it will become revenue income for you, and is available for all sole traders with a self-employed income of up to £50,000 per year. Now, because we're looking at an average over 3 years, if say you earned £60,000 last year and then £40,000 for the 2 previous years, you would be eligible because you would have an average then of under £50,000. If you have only traded for 1 year and that was over 50, then you wouldn't unfortunately be able to claim for this. If you have only started trading in the 18-19 self-assessment return year, then that's fine because you have already submitted a self-assessment return. This is how HMRC are going to be able to tell whether you're eligible for additional support. So you have to have submitted an 18-19 self-assessment return to be eligible for this. Anybody that started as a sole trader after sort of in the current tax year, unfortunately this doesn't cover them. We're not sure if there's going to be additional support for those, but at the moment this is just people that have already submitted. I'm sure you can understand from the government's point of view, if they said anybody could get it if they were a current trader, it's open to loads of fraud. So this is for something that's already been submitted, already been accepted by HMRC, and therefore it makes it easy for them to be able to maintain this and work out how much support they can offer you. So what they're going to do is they will look at your last 3 years self-assessment returns that you have submitted. They will take an average of your income for those 3 years and they will give you that as a monthly income. So if you've only submitted 2 years worth, they will take the average of the 2 years. And again, if they're only done 1, you'll get that. That will be where your average is calculated from. So they're going to contact you directly. HMRC will contact you directly through your government website to be able to claim for this allowance. I'm assuming that they will make a calculation, they will work out how much this is that you're owed, and they will tell you then how to claim, and you'll give them your bank details for them to make the transfer into. One thing I would just be aware of, I can imagine a lot of scams will go around about this. So when you do start getting your letters through or your emails through, just be mindful that actually HMRC won't ask you to go to an external link. They will only ever ask you to go to the HMRC website to be able to give you those details. They won't ask you to email them in, I wouldn't think. They might ask you to call them directly, but again, there'll be a phone number that you'll be able to look on the government website to be able to check it. If you're ever concerned about any of the correspondence that you get from HMRC, whether you think it might be a scam, then please feel free to contact me and I will have a look at it and make sure that it's legitimate. So because of the timings of this, the payments won't be available until June. So if you have got short-term cash flow issues, this will not cover you in the short term. You will need to find additional means to be able to support yourself for the next couple of months. Another thing that HMRC are doing to help self-employed is that any July payments on account, so for your 18-19 self-assessment return, any payments on account that were due at the end of July 2020 are now going to be deferred until January 2021. So that again is another bit of support that's available for you. Now, at present, this doesn't cover directors of limited companies. So again, we're not sure whether something else will come out in the future for this to cover directors, but at the moment, this doesn't support them. So going on to some business, let me just, where are we? So helping for small businesses. So then there is some help for small businesses. So for example, if you have employees, which I saw a couple of you do, they are offering statutory sick pay for employees from day one when it's related to COVID-19. So under normal circumstances, for employees, statutory sick pay starts on day 4. The employer has to pay it and cannot claim anything back from HMRC. So this has now changed for this disease, this virus. If somebody is off sick due to COVID-19, you can claim from day 1, and the employer can actually claim that back from HMRC as well. We're not quite sure of the process of doing that. So at the moment, it's if you have to put someone on sick pay, talk to your payroll provider or reach out for help, but process it as normal sick pay, and then there'll be a process to claim that back later on. And they're also looking at time to pay agreements for corporation tax and PAYE if that's needed, and you need to apply directly to HMRC for those time to pay agreements. They're not automatic, so don't just not pay. Make sure that you have spoken to HMRC and agreed a payment plan with them. There will be no VAT payments due between the 20th of March and the 30th of June. So any February, March and April VAT returns will not need to be paid until January 2021. So, sorry, March 2021. So you won't have to make any VAT payments at the moment. If you're due to make VAT payments, I recommend cancelling your direct debit so that HMRC don't take it, because I can't guarantee that they won't still try and request those payments. So just be aware of that. Any businesses that operate from a business premises. So there is a £10,000 one-off grant for any business that pays either no business rates or tapered relief due to business rate relief or rural rate relief. So you should know if you pay business rates. Basically, it's if your rateable value is under £15,000. And if that is you, then you will get a letter from your local government and they will tell you how to claim. The couple of local authorities that I've seen letters for already. So there's not, unfortunately, not Bedfordshire yet, but some other local authorities have been processing payments within 24 hours of receiving the information back from the business owner. So as soon as you get your letter at your business premises, then definitely apply. There are slightly different rules around businesses in retail, hospitality and leisure. Now this includes people like hairdressers and beauty salons as well. So just this is all the sort of businesses related to that. So anybody that pays business rates will have them waived for 12 months in the year 2021. There's also further grants available for these industries. So if you have a rateable value under 15,000, you will get an additional £10,000 grant. And that's on top of the £10,000 that you would get as general business as well. Any businesses in the retail, hospitality and leisure sector will also get £25,000 if their rateable value is between £15,000 and £51,000. And then if you're a nursery, you will also get a business rate holiday for 2021 as well. And again, nurseries are eligible for the £10,000 one-off grant for the low business rates too. Okay, so one of the more complicated ones, furloughing your staff. So if you have staff members that you can no longer offer work to, you are able to put them on furlough. So this means that they are not going to be doing any work for you, and under normal circumstances you would be looking at making them redundant or laying them off. So this is to stop that. The government want to get money in people's pockets. So the easiest way to get money in people's pockets is through their payroll. So for employees, if you would have been laid off, you'll ask them to stay and then you'll put them on furlough. And then the government will pay 80% of the staff wages up to £2,500 per month. And they will also pay the employer national insurance and their pension costs. So if if you had already made somebody redundant or laid somebody off, you can bring them back in and you can then pay them for March under furlough and claim the 80% back. You can top it up to 100% if you want to, but you don't have to. So all staff members are eligible for this, full-time, part-time, any 0-hour or flexible contract staff, they're also included. So if you have flexible staff or you have 0-hour staff, the way that you work it out is based on an average, and it all depends on how long they've been working for you and what a realistic average is looking like. So for example, if they've worked for you for a year, you might be able to take the full 12 months worth of payments and divide it by 12 to work out what a realistic monthly wage would be for the next 3 months. If they've worked for you for the last 3 years, you could look back and see what March payment was for the last 3 years and work out, because if you're on seasonal wages, then it could be that you are really busy in March, but actually you weren't very busy in February. So you want to be able to make sure that it's realistic for what you would have expected to get for the next 3 months. Again, we haven't got guidelines on how exactly to claim this back yet, but what there will be is a portal to be able to go in and look and enter those figures in. Obviously payroll is being processed at the moment for March, so if anybody has put staff members on furlough at the moment, what we're recommending to do is put them at 80% payment, unless you're going to top it up. If you're not going to top it up, 80% payment for the time that they were on furlough. So obviously this has only happened part way through March. So if, for example, they were working as normal for 3 weeks and then you put them on furlough for 1 week, you could pay them as normal 100% of their salary for the 3 weeks, and then you would pay them 80% of their salary for 1 week, and you would mark it separately on their payslip so that you can very clearly see what the furlough payment is, and then you can use that to then put into the portal for the HMRC when you come to claim it back again. So if a staff member is put on furlough, they cannot undertake any work for the business during that time. So they can't do any admin, they can't answer phones, they can't come and collect posts, they can't do anything. They are basically unemployed by that company in all intents and purposes. The only thing that they could possibly do is undertake some training. So if you wanted them to do some training courses, then that is totally fine. And if you are asking them to do that, you have to make sure that they are being paid at least minimum wage for the time that they are doing the training courses. So if they were working full-time doing training, you have to pay them at least minimum wage for that full-time hours. You can't, even if the 80% would take them under, you would then have to top it up. So unfortunately, this furlough option isn't available for staff when you have to reduce their hours. So if you actually are able to operate at 50%, reducing your staff hours to 50% wouldn't actually enable you to furlough them. You would have to just pay a 50% wage to your staff or agree a reduced payment terms for them. So the way that the furlough will work is you can submit one claim every 3 weeks, and you need to name the person that you're putting into furlough. So the way that we see this working is potentially, if you've got a number of staff members but you don't have enough work for all of them, you could put somebody on furlough for the first 3 weeks and somebody else would work. And then after that first 3 weeks, you could swap them over so that the first person so that one person would then be on furlough when they would work in the previous 3 weeks. I think this is kind of making it a little bit more fair. If you've got a number of staff members, and actually it would seem a bit kind of unfair to put half of them on furlough and they're still getting paid, whilst the other half have to come into work or have to work to get paid. So you could then sort of switch it over. So I think that's kind of quite fair. It also means that, say you haven't got business right now, you could furlough your staff, but actually in 3 weeks time you see that there's some work that you could do, you could bring them back in again, and then if it then goes quiet again, you could then put them back into furlough 3 weeks later. So any furlough payment, the 80%, is still assessed for tax and national insurance as normal. It's still classed as an earned income for that amount of time that they are put in furlough. So you still need to run payroll and pay tax and national insurance as normal. Okay, so funding and cash flow in general. From a personal point of view, obviously, if you're being supported through any of these schemes, then that's great. But actually, you probably still want to be looking at your cash flow over the next few months anyway. So mortgage breaks are being offered. So you can get 3 months mortgage break. At the moment, all banks, I think, are offering it. So it's worth having that conversation and talking to them. Even if you're not sure whether you would need it, it's probably better to apply sooner rather than later when you actually find that you do need it. If you're renting, so there's been no specific advice on this yet, but I would recommend to talk to your landlord. Buy-to-let mortgages are also potentially offering the 3-month payment break. So it could be that your landlords are able to offer you either reduced rate or to stop, reduced rent, or to stop your rent completely. But again, I would say have a conversation directly with your landlord, because just keeping in touch with them is going to be the best option. If you tell them that you're struggling, they're going to prefer to talk you through it rather than you to just stop paying your rent for any reason. It's also worth contacting utilities and water companies, see if you can get breaks from these payments. Quite often people are in credit, so it could be that you could say, well, I've got £100 credit in there, can I not pay next month, and see how we get on. But again, they're going to be busy, but I would say talk to the utility companies. Another option is credit cards, so either extending 0% payment offers. I know that on Money Saving Expert, when I looked the other day, there were still cards available for 0% for purchases and balance transfers with no fee. So it's definitely worth looking into if you do have some credit cards that you are paying off at the moment. I don't know how long they're going to stay around for. And then any existing credit cards or any existing payments that you've got going out, maybe loan payments, etc. Just have a look and see whether you can either reduce the payment that you're making or have a break from them as well. I would say though, just make sure that this won't affect your credit rating, and also be aware that you will have to pay that back, probably with interest at some point in a later date. So they're also giving easier access to benefits. So universal credit will also be easier to access, and they have also increased the amount that you can get. So again, I would have a look at that if you think you're eligible. If you haven't managed to be supported by one of the other schemes that have come out at the moment, universal credit might well be your best option. So I mentioned a cash flow forecast. I highly recommend having a look at what you've got coming in and going out and what you're able to defer. This is a very simple one. It's all fake numbers, but I have a blank sheet, a blank spreadsheet that you can fill out, and I will be sending that to all of you that have been on this webinar. It looks very simply about the money that you think you're going to get in, and then the money that you're going to have to pay back out again. So go through everything that you've got going out. So if you're a business, any salaries, but you could do this on a personal point of view as well. So you could put your mortgage rents in, the mortgage payments in here, your utilities in here, just basically keeping track of everything that you've got to pay. Just means that you can actually look at it and see whether you do have issues, or when you are likely to have issues, and when you can survive for. So what you would do is just say, right, at the moment I have £1,000 in the bank, and you would put that in as your opening cash position. And then you would look at what you've got coming in and what you've got going out and what you're going to have at the end of it. So this is a very good way. I mean, businesses should be doing this anyway, making sure that your cash flow, that you understand your cash flow, you know when you're going to have pinch points, and you know when you're going to have additional cash, maybe for investments or in the future. So have a look at this, fill it out, work out when it is that you might have problems. We did this with one client, and actually they realised that even if they had no income at all for the next 3 months, they still had enough to be able to support the essential outgoings that they had. And that really made them realise that actually they can get through this. And I think that's one of the big things, is we just need to get through the next few months, and then everything will start again. Let me know if you want me to help you with this cash flow, because I know sometimes it's a little bit kind of daunting having to do something like this. So there's a list of useful links for you. I will send a link to all of these for you directly, but the government website basically is the best place to have a look for all of the guides. They are updating them on a regular basis. They're making sure that any guidelines on how to claim things or what your eligibility status is will all be updated on here. So I definitely recommend keeping track of it. So that's all I was going to go through. I see that I've got a few questions, so I will just answer those. Let me just stop sharing my screen. Okay, so might have to bear with me. I haven't really done a webinar like this. Okay, so questions. Mentioned there are options to help people in the short term, but we're claiming universal credit affect you getting the self-employed grant in June. I don't think so. We haven't had guidelines on whether you can do universal credit and then the self-employed grant. Obviously, that only came out yesterday for guidelines, but I haven't seen anything to say that you can't claim both. One of the things with the self-employed grant is to make sure that you are the majority of your income comes from self-employment. So if you're also employed, you have to have at least 50% of your income needs to be from self-employment to be able to register for this. And I wonder if universal credit might be part of that. I don't know. It would have to wait and see. But I'll definitely take that away, and I will update if I hear anything more on there. Okay, the July tax payment automatically deferred until June, or do we need to call? No, that's automatically deferred. So they're not expecting any payments in July. Yeah, I think that's the case. So they will wait until January for that. Obviously, if you have the cash and you want to pay it, you are quite welcome to, but they're not expecting that payment in. Is there hope for people who started business in April 2018, filed a tax return, 100% self-employed but didn't make a profit in the first year? Not at the moment. At the moment, they are only taking it on the 18-19 self-assessment return. They're not taking into consideration anything from April 2019 to date. I think it's just open to so much fraud because people could just declare whatever they wanted to, and I think that's what they're trying to avoid. I know it's not great, but I think your option there is universal credit. Okay, is the grant repayable, and how does business interruption loan differ? No, so if it's grant, so the self-employed grant is not repayable. The business rates grant is not repayable. You don't have to pay that back to the government. It gets classed as income, so you will pay tax on it. But yeah, so it is there as an income. It's not a loan. It is just money given to you for being able to get through this. So no, you don't have to pay that back. And the business interruption loan. So that is a loan. So what the business interruption loan is trying to do is offer easy credit for you if you need it. So the idea is you get 12 months interest free, and the government will back 80% of that loan value. So if you needed to borrow £100,000, the government would back 80%, and then they would rely on you probably to give a personal guarantee for the other 20. So it's I'm hearing it's not that easy to actually apply for it. You're going to need to have like 3 years 3 years accounts and cash flow forecasts and management accounts and all that sort of thing. I'm hoping they will make it easier, but I don't know at the moment. But all I'm hearing at the moment is apply to your banks. There are other funding facilities available as well. There's a couple of companies like Capitalise who are a broker, and they're able to arrange funding as well. But I would say if you've got a business manager at your bank, have a chat with them first, see what their application process is. And also on the banks directly, they will have guidelines as to how to apply for this loan. It's supposed to be easy, but I mean, we'll wait and see how many people actually manage to get the loan. I am a director and I get paid in dividends. How do I apply for the 80% PAYE? As I'm sure that's all I'm entitled to. Directors are difficult at the moment. We don't have a massive amount of help for them and support for them at the moment. The majority of directors will be getting paid low salaries, so at the national insurance threshold, and then getting paid dividends. In theory, if you have no work, you can furlough yourself as a director and get 80% of that PAYE element. However, we are yet to find out whether a director can furlough themselves, because in theory, a director will always have work to do within that business. It's still something we're waiting to finalise the details on. And I wish that I could tell you more about directors, because I think directors and newly self-employed people have been left out at the moment, and I'm hoping that there will be more support coming. But yeah, at the moment, unfortunately, the 80% PAYE furlough for directors, I'm still not sure whether we'll be able to claim that, because I don't feel that we can furlough a director. We're waiting for guidelines. Trust me, I'm on lots of forums with lots of other accountants, and everybody is asking that same question: can we furlough directors? What can we get for them? And at the moment, we just don't know. So as soon as I know any further, then I will let you know. Okay, so one of my clients has just said that they've got access to business interruption loans. So if you did want me to put you in touch with anybody, please let me know, and I will connect you via email if you wanted to have access or a conversation about the business interruption loans. My public liability insurance is due in June. Should I stop the renewal or just carry on? I think you probably need to talk to your insurance company and just have a chat with them and see what they think. I don't know how long this is going to go on for, and I don't know what the situation will be. But yeah, I would say just in general, don't cancel anything. Don't not pay something without talking to the company first. I don't know what the situation will be with the insurance. In theory, if you're not doing anything at the moment, there's no reason for you to need the insurance going forward. It's just whether any of the previous like clauses, if you cancel it and then restart it, whether they might change. So I don't know. I would say talk to your insurance company. And apparently Boris has got COVID, but we'll find. So if anyone has any other questions, please let me know. I've probably got a couple of minutes, but then let me just check I've got nothing else. Okay, I think that's it. So thank you very much for joining me. If you have any questions at all going forward with this, please drop me an email and I will answer you all. So I've got one more. Is the 2,500 total or per employee? So the 2,500 is per employee. So it's an employee limit. So that's yeah. So it is per employee. And do we pay employee and then claims? We must have the capital in the bank first to make payment. Yes. So so you will need to make the payment, because the claim for furloughed staff will not come until at least the end of April. It's one of those things, if you don't have the cash in the bank, then talk to your employee and say that you're going to struggle, maybe pay half, maybe pay whatever you can. There's probably some employment law around that, so I would probably speak to a HR expert. And again, I have one of those that I work with very closely as well, so if you do need any HR support, I can connect you to her as well. But yeah, at the moment it is, you will pay your employees and then you'll claim it back from the government. Sorry, I missed the chat bit, so I apologise. I thought they were all in questions, but I think that's everything. So thank you for joining me. I hope you found it useful, and I hope I've given you enough information. I will try and answer any questions that I get, but email me directly and I'll sort that out. But I'll probably be arranging another Zoom call if we get any more information from the government on anything else. So thanks for joining me, and I'll speak to you all soon.